The new ChatGPT 5 is out, and in the last episode, we gave you a quick overview on what's new in ChatGPT 5, and you can go and check that out if that's interesting to you. But today, we wanted to talk about one of those features, and we wanted to go a bit deeper into it, and that is that ChatGPT 5 now is a lot more neutral when it comes to communicating with us. Now, a few months ago, if you listen to the episode, and if you haven't, you can go back and listen to it, we talked about the sycophantic phase of ChatGPT, which basically means that it was overly agreeing with you about everything. It was saying that everything is amazing and you are amazing and that everything is so good. And even if you gave it a very below average response, it would say, oh, but that was so amazing. And there was a public uproar about it because people were like, this is ridiculous. I'm saying the most silly things and ChatGPT is just agreeing with me and it's so ridiculous. And there was a big uproar about it, which ChatGPT took into account, and they toned down their psychophancy, as they called it, and made it a little more neutral. And then that stopped. Now, with the rollout of ChatGPT 5, they've worked on this even more. And now you will notice that the new ChatGPT 5 is very, very neutral. It speaks to you very factually. There's less emotion. And it's kind of working more like a robot, let's say, without that much emotion, but it's still performing very, very well. Now, funnily enough, because it's not being so nice anymore and because it's not being so supportive anymore, you would think that the public would be okay with that because of the previous uproar about them not being okay with it before. Now they want it back. We want the sycophantic ChatGPT 5 back. And the shocking thing is, we want it back because we've been using it a lot for our mental well-being. And this is what we're going to talk about today in our episode of Who Do We Want to Be? And I am here with Sabine, who has so much wisdom to offer when it comes to mindset and thinking about how we integrate these tools with our human intelligence. So how are you today, Sabine? That was a very long introduction, but I'm so happy to see you.
It was great context that you gave. So thank you for elaborating a bit, Abha. It's great to see you. I'm doing really well today, and I am looking forward to this discussion because there are so many different perspectives on this, and I'm looking forward to digging deeper.
So what do you think? I mean, what are we getting into when it comes to ChatGPT? Like personally, I am quite happy that it's more neutral because I don't really find value if I'm using it to better my work or augment my knowledge or do something better faster, if it's just agreeing with everything. Because then what is its value? I want to tap into its expertise. But then I don't use it for anything outside of business and work and augmenting my own knowledge. I don't use it in any other way. I don't use it for validation or mental support. But it seems like a large percentage of people have been using it for validation, for some kind of camaraderie. So I think it all comes down to how you are using ChatGPT in your day-to-day life. And this is a very important conversation that we need to have because at the end of the day, it is not a person. So I actually find the fact that people want this nice ChatGPT 5, overly friendly ChatGPT 5 to come back, I actually find that quite worrying.
It is super interesting when you look into how humans are building relationships. When you meet someone for the very first time, you are a little bit more defensive usually because you need to find out, is that a person that's good to me or for me, or is that a person that could pose a potential threat? So we're keeping a natural distance. The more interaction we have with a person, the better we get to know them, and the more we can decide, okay, this is someone I actually enjoy being around. And then I seek more and more contact to that person. So that's, for example, how we build friendships, right? When we selected someone where we think we feel good around them and we enjoy their company, then this is my go-to person that I call when I have any problems, that I call when I want to celebrate something, whatever else it is. This is basically also how many people started to build their relationship with ChatGPT. When that tool was out there for the first time, most people were a bit hesitant. what is this? What can I use it for? What am I going to do with it? So we started to put in our prompts that weren't that great at the very beginning because we also really didn't know what to expect or how to handle it. So the more time we spent with ChatGPT, the more we started to trust that tool. The more we started to go back into it all the time. And I am noticing that I'm using it just like you. For business purposes, I just want to, for example, a paragraph written and then I can just tweak it wherever I want it, or I want to have an outline for a training module or whatever it is. But I'm also noticing whenever I put in a prompt, it gives me something like, oh, that's a great idea to put it like this. Or, yes, that's a very good connection between those two ideas. And I'm just thinking, okay, thank you, but I don't need you to give me compliments on my thinking. However, when other people are using that tool and they don't get that much recognition at work, for example, or maybe they are living by themselves, and they start to see those sentences, that feels good because it's some sort of appreciation, it's recognition, it makes us happy because our human psyche is made for belonging. We are social beings and we want to have the feeling that others see value in us. So based on the user of ChatGPT, when we have someone who is alone, who doesn't get that appreciation, or for example, who feels bad at work because they think they are underperforming or there are other colleagues that are doing better, having a tool that tells them how great they are, of course, is literal food for the soul. So that is the aspect where I can understand that people tend to go to a tool like this if there is no human who fulfills that need.
And I find it really worrying still, you know. I was reading about this today. All this apparently is framed as the rise of parasocial relationships. So relationships with something that is not real because we are not getting what we need from a real relationship, whether that's a colleague or a boss or a partner. We are seeking it somewhere else. And now tools like ChatGPT are just giving it to us because of the way it's behaving. So, you know, we need to be very aware of this because I don't see any good coming from building a strong relationship with somebody who is not human. And I think we will be addressing this a lot in this podcast as these tools get integrated more and more into our lives and as we assess the balance between human interaction and artificial intelligence. Because I don't see any good coming from long-term parasocial relationships because they are just not real. And I think it all boils down to really thinking about how you're feeling and being aware that there are some voids in your life and knowing that a tool like ChatGPT cannot fix them.
That is true. When I think of the work that I do with many of my clients, oftentimes one topic that comes up over and over again is, for example, imposter syndrome, directly connected to self-doubt or lack of self-confidence. I often speak to people who are extremely successful at work and yet they do have the self-doubt. They are not always sure if they can actually deliver what is expected and so on and so forth. When you're in a situation like this and you start to build up anxiety about anything that might come up next, maybe your job is in danger or whatever else, it comes in very handy when you have your phone in your hand or you're sitting at the laptop anyways, and you know that there is ChatGPT or another tool, and you can put in your situation and you are just looking for some appreciation or recognition, something or someone that tells you, don't worry about it. You are very qualified. Nothing will happen. Everything is fine. This kind of comfort is what people are looking for in that particular moment. Whether it comes from a human or it comes from a tool is not so important in that moment. It's more about the message that we are receiving. And in that moment, that emotional need is so big that the rational side is not very active in that particular moment because we're just seeking to fulfill that need of appreciation, that need of coming out of our anxiety and just feeling better and assured in that moment. So we're not thinking about the actual source of that recognition or appreciation. So that is one thing that really, I believe, is the huge, I don't want to call it benefit of ChatGPT, but it's just really, it's immediately available and it gives us exactly what we need to fill or meet our emotional need in that particular moment. And then, of course, the next advantage is it's always there. You don't need to pick up the phone and call a friend, for example. You don't need to type in a message and wait for someone to actually read that message and respond to you. ChatGPT is there at 2 a.m. in the morning, or I don't know, 9 p.m. in the evening on a Saturday when everybody else is out partying. So there are different factors that really contribute to why there is this immense trend of these parasocial relationships, because they fulfill an emotional need that many people have, where the rational part of our thinking is not so active, and it's always available. However, I don't think that this was the actual intention that ChatGPT had back then. When I was reflecting on this whole situation, I thought ultimately it was actually smart that ChatGPT was built that way, because when people hear nice words and compliments, as we said in the beginning, they want to return. So ChatGPT was probably built that way because it wanted to make sure that people keep using it. But that it would take this turn was probably not intended.
And I think I want to ask you then, how can we manage ourselves in this? How can we continue to use this to fill this emotional need if we need to, because it's something quick and it can get us back on track without getting too attached or without getting deeper and getting into the whole of relying on it, being overly dependent, being codependent on a tool that is not human? Because as you said, by doing that, we are actually communicating less with our loved ones, with our friends, with people who can actually help us long term. So, how do we manage this as humans? I don't think there's balance here because that doesn't exist. And emotions, I don't know how you can balance our emotions, but what do you recommend? And I won't deny, and I said that I only use this for business purposes, and that is true. And I'm very aware it's a robot, and I'm very aware. But there is another AI tool I use. It's actually part of my business coaching community that I'm in, where the coach has actually trained this AI on all her teachings. And it's amazing because sometimes when that coach is not available, I just go and chat to her AI version. And it's funny, actually, and I'm being very vulnerable admitting this, is that when I'm sharing my business plan with this AI, I am seeking a pat on the back, and I actually was aware of it the other day. I'm just like, wait a minute, this is just a tool. This is a robot. This is not the coach. This is not her. Right? So where do we draw the line? And when do I need to recognize that I don't need to have this conversation with this AI at the moment? I'm just going to jump on a call with the coach. So I don't know any advice you can give on this.
So the first advice around meeting the emotional need is a bit uncomfortable because it actually involves a lot of work. But the key word is the word that you've just used as well. It's to become aware. It's to really start working on our self-awareness to understand what actually triggered that emotional need in me. What made me seek recognition in this moment? What triggered me to build up anxiety, for example? What triggered me to feel self-doubt again? So this is what we call emotional intelligence, and it's really just all about going into deep reflection, going through that situation again and understanding what the trigger was, what that one thing was that got us into that thought spiral, that sometimes we call it vicious circle, where we are just realizing we are ruminating about one thing and we can't just get out of it, but instead we are just moving from one bad thought into the next. So understanding, okay, this is the trigger. I am usually reacting to this like that. That is the first awareness that we need to be able to make that change. so that we don't need to seek any emotional appreciation or recognition after the situation, but we are able to give that to ourselves. That we are able to say, okay, usually I would be triggered when, for example, my boss shouts at me. I would immediately think, oh no, he's shouting at me, I'm going to lose my job. Instead, understanding how is my boss shouting at me right now actually related to me and my performance? What other reasons can there be that my boss is shouting? Maybe he just had a super busy morning at home with his kids not listening, with him dropping them off at school late, with him meeting the first meeting in the morning with his boss. So now he is super agitated and he would probably shout at everyone who comes his way. So, understanding the bigger context around us, understanding our own triggers, that helps us to start with, that we don't need to get emotionally fulfilled by, for example, ChatGPT or any other tool. So, that's the number one thing. And regarding the second thing that you mentioned, where you said, okay, I also wanted to get a feedback from the AI bot rather than waiting for my coach or my teacher to be available. You gave the answer to yourself already, which is just really to understand how urgent is this right now? Do I need to get the feedback instantly? Or can I wait, let it be an hour or two, let it even be a day? How dramatically will my life change if I take one day to wait for the feedback on my business plan? Your life probably won't change at all. Only that your curiosity will have to wait for 24 hours, but that should be okay.
And that's the thing, right? We're in this world of instant gratification. We want everything now, 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 and we don't want to wait. And again, this ties into what technology is doing to us by being able to respond to us so quickly that just by not willing to wait, we are digging ourselves in a hole of building a stronger relationship with something that long term is not going to help us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think of the other consequence that it has when we constantly only turn to ChatGPT, is that ChatGPT is getting used to us. We are getting used to ChatGPT. That means we are probably even mirroring each other. So ChatGPT is going to tell me what I want to hear. I am going to ChatGPT expecting a certain response. So that will narrow me in my thinking so much because I am not thinking of other options, I'm not thinking of other possibilities. And that way, I am actually also limiting my own opportunities. Rather than, for example, also taking the opportunity to grow from an uncomfortable situation, confronting myself with that uncomfortable situation and to see what can I learn from that? What can I do differently? I choose to turn towards an AI tool that's just going to tell me, don't worry, you did everything great and you are fine. That way, and here's the irony, that way I don't see the need to change my behavior. So I will stumble into situations like that over and over again because I don't see that I did anything wrong. So I will provoke that kind of behavior in other people. I will come out of that situation again, being upset or being sad or being angry, whatever it is, turning towards ChatGPT that tells me, you're fine, don't worry about it. You don't need to change anything. So that in itself actually creates a much bigger problem for me than I intended in the first place.
So it all comes back to the whole premise of this podcast. In this
Yes.
day and age of AI integrating into our lives and trying to find the right balance between our human intelligence and artificial intelligence so that we can get the most of all these amazing tools that are at our disposal without being harmed by the bad effects of it long term. We just need to step back and be self-aware. And when we feel ourselves spiraling into something like this, ask ourselves the question, why am I doing this? Who do I want to be in this situation? Do I want to be that person who is going to a tool like ChatGPT for validation, who is seeking companionship in this tool? Or do I want to take a step back, think about how I'm really feeling, and go and call a friend instead? So we urge you to think about these things as we move forward in this age of artificial intelligence. It is moving so fast into our lives. It's very soon going to be fully integrated in ways that we didn't imagine. And self-awareness, like Sabine has repeatedly said in this episode, is the only way to stay on track. And only if we are self-aware of how we are using the tool can we help others, like our children, for example, to be self-aware, because they are people who are coming into this world not knowing a world without AI. So we have lots to think about. We have lots to be very wary of. While we reap the benefits of these tools, we have to always ask ourselves who we want to be in these situations. And this is really why we launched this podcast, to be able to have these conversations. We are not pretending to have all the answers. We don't know everything, but we do want to have the conversations so that we can be self-aware. And we really hope that it's helping you too. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you again next week.